Part 1. Why some people are liked everywhere they go. Have you ever met someone who seemed to be liked by almost everyone? They weren't necessarily the funniest person in the room. They weren't the smartest. They didn't dominate every conversation or constantly seek attention. And yet, people genuinely enjoyed being around them. Coworkers respected them. Friends trusted them. Even strangers felt comfortable talking to them. Then there are other people. They're honest, they're hardworking, they mean well, but somehow they frequently find themselves in conflicts, misunderstandings, or awkward situations. People distance themselves from them without any obvious reason. For a long time, I believed being well-liked was simply a matter of communication skills. I thought charismatic people were born with a special gift that the rest of us didn't have. But after years of observing different personalities, I discovered something surprising. Most well-liked people aren't doing anything extraordinary. In fact, their secret is often much simpler. They avoid a few common mistakes that many others make every day. Think about driving a car. Let's start with the first side of the triangle. Rule number 1, never step on someone else's pride. Human beings have a fascinating tendency. We don't experience reality exactly as it is. We experience it through emotion. A car isn't always just a car. A house isn't always just a house. A job isn't always just a job. Often, these things represent years of effort, sacrifice, dreams, and personal achievement. Imagine someone finally buys their first car after years of saving money. To an outsider, it may seem like an ordinary vehicle, but to them, it represents something much bigger. It symbolizes hard work, persistence, progress, pride. Now imagine they excitedly show you their new purchase. And your first response is, that model uses too much fuel. You should have bought a different one. It's already outdated. Maybe you're right. Maybe every point you make is factually correct. But ask yourself this, what did your honesty actually accomplish? Did it help them? Or did it simply take away their moment of happiness? Many people confuse honesty with wisdom. The two are not the same. Wise people understand that timing matters, context matters, emotions matter. Not every observation needs to be spoken aloud. Not every opinion deserves immediate expression. And not every conversation is a debate waiting to happen. I once witnessed something that perfectly illustrates this. A father at work proudly showed his coworkers a photo of his son holding a small trophy from a school competition. He was smiling from ear to ear. Then someone casually replied, "It's only a school-level award." The atmosphere changed instantly. The father's smile faded. The conversation ended. The person who made the comment probably didn't intend to be cruel. He was simply stating a fact, but facts delivered without sensitivity can still hurt. And here's the important lesson. People often forget what you said, but they rarely forget how you made them feel. This doesn't mean you should become fake. It doesn't mean you should constantly flatter people. It simply means learning to respect what others value. If someone is celebrating something meaningful to them, you don't always need to point out the flaws. Sometimes the kindest response is also the simplest. Congratulations, I'm happy for you. What matters is that you're proud of it. Small statements like these can strengthen relationships far more than winning an unnecessary argument. Maturity isn't about proving you're right. Maturity is knowing when being right doesn't matter. And that brings us to the second side of the triangle. Rule number 2. Don't hand your secrets to the wrong people. Every human being wants to be understood. When life becomes difficult, we naturally look for someone to talk to. We want support. We want empathy. We want someone to listen. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem begins when we confuse familiarity with trust. Just because you've spoken to someone a few times doesn't mean they're trustworthy. Just because you work together doesn't mean they should know your deepest struggles. Just because someone seems friendly doesn't mean they're capable of protecting your vulnerability. I've seen this mistake destroy relationships more than once. There was a young employee who joined a company and quickly became close with several coworkers. The work environment felt welcoming. Everyone seemed supportive. As time passed, she started sharing more personal details about her life. Family problems, financial struggles, relationship issues. At first, everyone listened with compassion. People nodded. They offered advice. They seemed caring. But within weeks, nearly everyone in the office knew her private business. Some details became exaggerated. Others were repeated without context. What began as a personal conversation turned into workplace gossip. The most painful part wasn't the rumors themselves. It was realizing she had trusted the wrong people. This is why emotionally intelligent individuals are careful about what they reveal and to whom. They don't tell everyone everything. They understand that trust must be earned over time. Some conversations belong with close friends, others belong with family members, and some are best kept private altogether. Many people believe complete openness automatically creates connection. But that's not always true. Oversharing can sometimes create unintended consequences. For example, if you constantly complain about family conflicts, people may begin judging your family. If you repeatedly discuss failures at work, others may start questioning your competence. Whether those judgments are fair doesn't really matter. Human beings naturally form opinions based on the information available to them. That's why before sharing something deeply personal, it's worth asking yourself one question. If this story became public tomorrow, would I be okay with it? If the answer is no, think carefully before sharing. Wisdom isn't about never opening up. Wisdom is about choosing the right audience. Trust is one of the most valuable resources you'll ever possess. Give it away too easily, and you'll often regret it. Protect it wisely, and it becomes one of the foundations of healthy relationships. And finally, we arrive at the third and perhaps most dangerous side of the triangle. Part 2. The cost of trusting the wrong people. Trust is a strange thing. It takes years to build, sometimes only seconds to lose, and yet many people give it away far too quickly, not because they're careless, not because they're naive, but because every human being wants to feel understood. When life becomes difficult, we naturally search for someone who will listen, someone who will reassure us, someone who will make us feel less alone. That's completely normal. In fact, it's one of the most human desires we have. The problem begins when we mistake friendliness for loyalty. Those two things are not the same. Someone can be kind without being trustworthy. Someone can be supportive without being discreet. Someone can listen carefully and still repeat everything you've told them later. Most people learn this lesson the hard way. Maybe you've experienced it yourself. You shared something personal with someone you thought you could trust. A private struggle, a family issue, financial problem, a relationship challenge. At the time it felt safe. The conversation seemed confidential. The person appeared understanding. Then, weeks later, you discovered that information had somehow traveled far beyond the original conversation. Now people were discussing details you never intended to become public. The disappointment wasn't just about the information itself. It was about realizing your trust had been misplaced. And that realization hurts. Because trust isn't simply information. It's vulnerability. When we share something deeply personal, we're handing another person a piece of ourselves. We're saying, I believe you'll protect this. Unfortunately, not everyone deserves that responsibility. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that proximity creates trust. Just because someone sits next to you at work doesn't mean they're a close friend. Just because you've had several good conversations doesn't mean they've earned access to your private world. Just because someone asks personal questions doesn't mean they're entitled to personal answers. Trust should be built slowly. The strongest bridges aren't built overnight. Neither are the strongest relationships. Think about the most trustworthy person in your life. Maybe it's a lifelong friend. Maybe it's a parent. Maybe it's a sibling. Maybe it's someone who's consistently shown up during difficult moments. Now ask yourself this. Did they earn your trust in a single conversation? Probably not. Trust grows through patterns, consistency, reliability, time. Yet many people reveal their deepest struggles to individuals they've known for only a few weeks. Then they're surprised when things go wrong. The truth is simple. Information changes how people see you. Whether that's fair or not doesn't matter. It's reality. Imagine two employees working in the same office. One consistently discusses personal problems with everyone around them. Financial stress, family arguments, relationship drama, daily frustrations. The other keeps certain boundaries. They remain friendly and open, but they share personal information carefully. Which person is more likely to be viewed as stable and dependable? In most workplaces, the answer is obvious. Again, this doesn't mean you should never open up. It doesn't mean you should suppress your emotions. It simply means being intentional. Not everyone deserves access to every chapter of your story. One of the wisest habits you can develop is learning the difference between private and public information. Some things belong in trusted circles, some things belong only with family, and some things belong only with you. Before sharing something important, ask yourself a simple question. If this conversation somehow became public tomorrow, would I regret it? If the answer is yes, pause. Think carefully. Choose wisely. Because once information leaves your mouth, you no longer control where it travels. And unlike money, trust is often difficult to recover after it's been lost. But there's one communication mistake that can damage your reputation even faster than oversharing. A habit so common that many people don't even recognize it when they're doing it. And that's exactly what we'll talk about next. Rule number 3. Never speak negatively about people who aren't present. If there is one habit capable of quietly destroying relationships, it's this one. Talking about people behind their backs, it happens everywhere. Offices, schools, friend groups, family gatherings, coffee shops, online communities. The setting changes, the pattern stays the same. A conversation begins normally. Someone mentions another person. A small observation is made. Then another. Soon, the discussion shifts from conversation to criticism. And before anyone realizes it, an absent person has become the center of attention. Most participants don't think they're doing anything harmful. They're just being honest. They're just sharing an opinion. They're just telling the truth. But something important is happening beneath the surface. The people listening aren't only evaluating the person being discussed, they're evaluating the person doing the talking. Imagine sitting across from someone who constantly criticizes others. Maybe they're complaining about coworkers, mocking friends, judging family members, questioning people's intentions. At first, you might agree with some of what they're saying. But eventually, another thought appears. If they're comfortable speaking this way about others, what do they say when I'm not around? That's the moment trust begins to disappear. Because gossip rarely damages only one person. It damages everyone involved, including the speaker. I once worked with a manager who was deeply respected throughout the company. What made him different wasn't his position. It wasn't his experience, and it certainly wasn't his authority. It was his discipline. No matter how frustrated he became, he refused to speak negatively about people who weren't present. If there was a problem, he addressed it directly. If there was a disagreement, he handled it privately. If someone tried to pull him into gossip, he changed the subject. Over time, something remarkable happened. People trusted him, not because he demanded respect, because he earned it. Everyone knew their conversations were safe with him. Everyone knew their mistakes wouldn't become entertainment for others. That kind of reputation is incredibly valuable. Because trust attracts trust. People naturally feel comfortable around individuals who make them feel secure. And security is one of the rarest gifts you can offer another human being. The opposite is also true. If every conversation revolves around criticizing others, people eventually become cautious around you. They share less, they trust less, they reveal less. Not because they dislike you, because they don't feel safe. One of the most useful skills in life is recognizing when a conversation begins moving toward gossip. Usually the signs are subtle. A complaint becomes a judgment. A story becomes an accusation. Curiosity becomes criticism. When that happens, you have choices. You can participate, you can encourage it, or you can quietly step away. Change the subject, redirect the conversation, stay silent. Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is wisdom. And often, it's the difference between building trust and losing it. Now let's put all three sides of the triangle together. Part 3. The kind of person people feel safe around. Now let's bring everything together. We've talked about 3 simple principles. At first glance, they may seem almost too simple. Don't attack what others value. Don't share your deepest secrets with the wrong people. Don't speak negatively about people who aren't present. Most people hear these ideas and immediately think, of course, I already know that. But knowing something and practicing it are 2 very different things. The truth is, most relationship problems don't come from dramatic betrayals. They don't come from major conflicts. They don't come from life-changing mistakes. More often, they come from small moments. A careless comment, an unnecessary criticism, a secret shared too quickly, a conversation that should have remained private. Tiny decisions, repeated over time. That's what shapes your reputation. And reputation is one of the most powerful forces in human relationships. People don't judge you based on one interaction. They judge you based on patterns. What do you usually talk about? How do you treat people? Can you be trusted? Do people feel respected when they're around you? These questions matter far more than most people realize. Because at the end of the day, human beings are constantly asking themselves one silent question: am I safe with this person? Not physically safe, emotionally safe. Can I share good news without being criticized? Can I be vulnerable without becoming gossip? Can I trust that my mistakes won't be used against me? Can I leave the room knowing this person will speak about me the same way they speak to me? When the answer is yes, relationships grow. When the answer is no, distance appears. Sometimes gradually, sometimes immediately. And that's why the triangle of safe communication matters. It's not really about controlling your words. It's about creating trust. Think about the people you admire most. Not celebrities, not public figures. People you know personally. Maybe a mentor, a friend, a teacher, a family member. What makes them memorable? Often, it isn't their intelligence. It isn't their success. It isn't their achievements. It's the way they make others feel. You feel respected around them. You feel heard around them. You feel accepted around them. And because of that, people naturally gravitate toward them. One of the biggest misunderstandings about communication is the belief that being influential means talking more. In reality, influence often comes from restraint, knowing when not to speak, knowing which opinions don't need to be shared, knowing which conversations aren't worth joining. There is tremendous power in self-control. Anyone can react emotionally, anyone can criticize, anyone can spread information, but not everyone can pause. Not everyone can choose wisdom over impulse, and that choice makes all the difference. I once heard a story about an elderly man who was known and respected throughout his community. People frequently came to him for advice. Young couples sought his guidance. Business owners asked for his opinion. Friends trusted him with their problems. One day, someone asked him what his secret was. How had he earned so much respect? His answer was surprisingly simple. He said, "Whenever someone leaves my presence, I want them to feel lighter, not heavier." That's it. No complicated philosophy, no special technique, just one principle. Make people feel better after they've spent time with you. Think about how different the world would be if more people followed that rule. Imagine conversations where people felt encouraged instead of judged. Imagine workplaces where trust was stronger than gossip. Imagine friendships built on loyalty instead of criticism. Imagine families where people felt understood rather than attacked. Not because people became perfect, but because they became more thoughtful. And thoughtfulness is rare. In a world where everyone is eager to express themselves, few people take the time to consider how their words affect others. That's why those who do stand out. Now let's revisit the three sides of the triangle one final time. The first side teaches respect. People value different things, different dreams, different accomplishments, different priorities. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to share their enthusiasm, but you can respect it. The second side teaches discretion. Not every thought belongs in public. Not every struggle needs an audience. Trust is precious. Protect it carefully. The third side teaches integrity. The way you speak about people when they aren't present reveals your true character. Anyone can be kind face to face. Character is what happens when nobody is watching. When these three principles work together, something remarkable happens. You become the kind of person others feel comfortable around, the kind of person people trust, the kind of person people respect, and perhaps most importantly, the kind of person people remember. Because long after people forget your accomplishments, they'll remember how you treated them. Long after they forget your opinions, they'll remember whether they felt valued. Long after specific conversations fade away, they'll remember whether they felt safe. That's the true foundation of meaningful relationships. Not charm, not charisma, not clever words. Trust, respect, and integrity. If you can build those three things, you'll already possess something more valuable than almost any communication technique. You'll possess a reputation that opens doors, strengthens friendships, and creates lasting connections. And in a world where genuine trust is becoming increasingly rare, that may be one of the greatest advantages a person can have. So the next time you're in a conversation, remember the triangle. Before speaking, ask yourself, am I respecting what this person values? Am I sharing information wisely? Would I say these same words if the person we're discussing were standing right here beside us? Those three questions can prevent countless misunderstandings. And over time, they can transform the way people experience your presence. Because the goal isn't to become the most impressive person in the room, The goal is to become the person others are grateful to have in the room, and that is a reputation worth building. Thank you for watching. If you found value in this message, take a moment to share it with someone who might benefit from it. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights on communication, psychology, and personal growth, because sometimes the smallest changes in the way we speak create the biggest changes in the way we live.